Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Crab and Cask coming at you. James P. Seidel. Hey, listen everybody, welcome to Swamp Justice Radio on 97.7 WVFF Veterans for Freedom Radio. We are the Truth in Broadcasting Corporation. I urge you to go to Spotify, type in Crime and Cast, James Seidel, Swamp Justice, and check out the songs which you're listening to.
Swamp Justice, where facts and fables meet.
Where facts and fables meet.
Heart of the swamp, where truth and law repeat.
All right, we're going to get into the swamp today because there's a lot going on in the swamp in South Carolina. We just got off major snowstorm for the whole entire state of South Carolina, which I have been told by weather meteorologists, say that 3 times fast, that's the first time that the state of South Carolina in modern history, whatever that is, has awoken to the entire state blanketed in snow. I know down here in Charleston, we got very little, maybe a dusting. It got up in Myrtle Beach. I know they got quite a bit of snow. And way up north, Columbia up north, they got a ton. 6 to 8, maybe even 9 inches of snow, which is a lot. I was actually here, and probably what I think is the biggest one. Well, it's the biggest one I know. It was 18 inches. I think it was like February 2020. No, not 2020. 2004. It was incredible. So we're going to talk today. We're talking about draining the swamp. We're going to talk today a little bit about the Buster Murdaugh, the Buster Murdaugh lawsuit, and there's a couple of things going on. He's suing a bunch of people, but Netflix, the Cinemart LLC, Gannett Company Incorporated, and Michael M. DeWitt. And Michael DeWitt is a journalist in the South Carolina Lowcountry. He's also an author. I bought one of his books one time. And he filed a motion to dismiss the defamation claims brought by Mr. Buster Murdaugh. Buster is the son of one Alex Murdaugh, brother to Paul Murdaugh and Maggie Murdaugh. And he also asked the Hampton County Court of Pleas, Michael DeWitt did, again, actually, to do something South Carolina courts routinely decline to do, and that is to resolve disputes of meaning, implication, and the context of the pleading. So I'm going to try to bring this up on the screen here so you guys can see it at home and on YouTube and wherever else. If you're listening to this on the radio, sorry, but I will walk you through this and see. Of course, today's episode, we are BINRA SD Self-Defense Kinetic Launch Ultimate Bundle, Non-Lethal Kinetic Projectile Launcher, Home and Personal Defense, proudly assembled in USA. Check it out. It's on Amazon. Go to my website, crimeandcast.com. You can see the link there. It's an interesting take on using a firearm that is non-lethal. Anyways, so back to Gannett. And in here, what I'm looking at is a reply memorandum of defendants Michael M. DeWitt Jr. and Gannett Company Incorporated in further support of their motion to dismiss the plaintiff's complaint. And basically what they're saying is plaintiff's defamation claim, plaintiff being Buster, against Gannett fails as a matter of law because he does not simply adequately state any basis for holding Gannett liable for Mr. DeWitt's statements. Now, this is where this gets interesting, and I'm no attorney, but This you tell me. So Gannett is not liable for DeWitt's statements. Gannett named as a defendant solely because it is the ultimate parent company of the subsidiary that publishes the Hampton County Guardian. That the Hampton County Guardian is DeWitt's employer. Get it? DeWitt works for Hampton County Guardian. Gannett owns the Hampton County Guardian. It says plaintiff does not and cannot claim that Gannett published any of the statements at issue in this action, and plaintiff does not allege any facts establishing that Gannett is vicariously liable for statements that Mr. DeWitt made in the Netflix documentary series at issue. Well, that's interesting. Plaintiff's response, brief, barely even addresses, let alone cures this fatal flaw, as they say, of his claim against Gannett. Nor do any of the four challenge statements that Mr. DeWitt made in the Netflix documentary, when viewed accurately and in context, give rise to a defamation claim. Plaintiff's claims against Mr. DeWitt fail on multiple independent grounds. Certain statements defamatory of plaintiff and do not reasonably convey any defamatory implication as to plaintiff. Well, we'll see. So we're going to get more into that. But regardless of how the case against the other defendants, Netflix and Cinemart, proceed, the claims against DeWitt must be analyzed independently. And under South Carolina law, we're not in federal court here. We are in South Carolina state civil court. And dismissal at this stage of where Buster has this case, right now, to me, it doesn't appear warranted based off of what I have seen. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just, as an investigative journalist with half a brain, taking a look at this and saying, doesn't appear that it's warranted. But I'm not the judge, and the judge will be the final person to decide which way that's going to fall. But here's the procedural standard is controlling. And there is a rule we love in the legal industry, all these different rules. This is Rule 12B6, motion. Test only whether a complainant states a legally sufficient claim. So Buster's claim, not whether the plaintiff will ultimately prevail. And that is an important point. They're not arguing this. It's saying that he's going to win. But the court must accept the complainant's factual allegations as true and draw all reasonable inferences in favor of the plaintiff. So dismissal is appropriate only if no set of facts could entitle the plaintiff to relief. And that standard matters here because defamation by implication claims on context, audience perception, and how statements interact with surrounding material, and questions that are rarely suitable for resolution on a motion to dismiss. So I don't think it's going to get dismissed, my opinion. And DeWitt is alleged to have participated in publication. So the complaint alleges that DeWitt made statements that were published and republished in a broader media context, addressing the deaths of Stephen Smith, which I have solved, by the way. If you don't think the Stephen Smith case is solved, that's on you. But go to crimeandcast.com, keyword Stephen Smith, look up bombshell case. Names are being named. And the Murdaugh family saga. It further alleges that when viewed in context, those statements contributed to a defamatory implication concerning Buster Murdaugh. So what's that mean? It means that under South Carolina law, South Carolina, listen, hey, everybody, we are in South Carolina. A defendant need not be the original author of the defamatory implication to be held liable. Participation in publication or republication republication. If it contributes to the alleged harm is sufficient to state a claim. I mean, come on, let's go. I need an applause right here, right? Thank you. All right. So opinion and fair report are not grounds for dismissal at this stage. So let's get into that real quick because we got something big we're getting into. We're getting into our friends. I'm on their Christmas card. Luna Shark, Mandy Matney, and Liz Farrell, and Eric Bland. They love defaming me on a daily basis. Eric is getting himself investigated by the South Carolina Department, South Carolina Supreme Court and their Office of Disciplinary Counsel. But so hold on. Stay tuned, as they say. So opinion and fair reports are not grounds for dismissal at this stage. And DeWitt's motion or Gannett's motion relies heavily on defenses grounded in opinion, fair report privilege, being a journalist, and First Amendment protections. And those defenses may ultimately succeed, we'll see, but they are affirmative defenses, not pleading defects, as they say in the biz. And what I've seen in the past, doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future, but South Carolina courts consistently hold that such defense requires, ready? A complete factual record, examination of full context, an evaluation of how a reasonable reader or viewer of some crap podcast would interpret these statements. And none of these can be resolved on the face of the pleadings. And here's an interesting one. Defamation by implication is a fact-intensive claim. Now, what does that mean? That's a big headline. Well, let's break it down for you. Those on the radio. South Carolina recognizes defamation by implication when true statements are arranged or presented in a way that conveys a false and defamatory meaning. Whether an implication exists in this case and whether it's reasonable are typically questions for a jury. I don't know if we're ever going to get to one. I don't think we are, in my opinion, particularly where the alleged implications arise from text rather than explicit accusation. I think some dimwit somewhere said something about, well, DeWitt got that from, some pages or groups or somewhere. Well, he said it in Netflix, and he says, when enough people say the word Buster Murdaugh, you got to look into it. Well, hey, you got to look into it, but then you don't have to tell everybody about it. Just like when I went and tried to solve the Stephen Smith case, when I solved the Stephen Smith case, I actually looked into seeing that if Buster was actually involved. And I couldn't prove it. So I'm not going to say it. What I'm going to say is that there's no evidence pointing to Buster Murdaugh having anything to do with Stephen Smith. Go on. Hampton County is the proper forum. So in this motion, the alleged harm did occur in South Carolina. The plaintiff, Buster, resides in South Carolina, and the reputational injury alleged is rooted in Hampton County. Stephen Smith. The presence of constitutional defenses does not mandate removal to federal court, which is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get this out of Hampton because that's where the Murdaughs still have a lot of influence. Juries award a lot of money in Hampton County. And they're trying to get it out of that into federal court and a whole different set of rules besides state rules. But the presence of constitutional defense does not mandate removal to federal court. I mean, that needs another thought. Don't you think so? Yeah. Okay. So the presence of We said constitutional defenses does not mandate. Okay, it's not that funny. The move to federal court. South Carolina courts are competent to adjudicate First Amendment defenses under state law all day long. They do it every single day. We have a lot of competent judges in the state. So my conclusion on DeWitt, and remember, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about Netflix and the Cinemart next. That's going to be a good one in this show, so don't go anywhere. DeWitt's motion asked the court to decide disputed questions of implication, meaning, and audience interpretation prematurely. And guess what? The state of South Carolina law does not permit that. Okay, so we're going to jump over, and while we are talking about that, let's get rid of this. Actually, no, I can probably, yeah. If you're watching here at home on the YouTube, you can see what I'm doing here. And this is inside the Netflix and Cinemart pipeline and Buster Murdaugh lawsuit. And we're going to discuss how these key narratives were allegedly sourced, filtered, and shaped. And I say narratives. I mean narratives. I'm not talking about journalism. I'm not talking about news. I'm not talking about unbiased news. I am talking about bringing the receipts showing what communications between Liz and Mandy point to as narratives that were allegedly sourced and filtered and shaped. We're going to say that. I say that 3 times fast. Okay, let's run the Hampton again. So what we've got here is we're going to go through some internal text messages between Mandy and Liz. Production communications reviewed by Ma reveal a tightly interconnected media pipeline. I spent a lot of time on that phrase. Tightly interconnected media pipeline. In which Netflix and Cinemark relied heavily on information and narrative framing supplied by who? I'm very nice to call them journalists because I think they used to be, but they're not anymore, in my opinion. Liz and Mandy, and information that in turn is frequently traced back to everyone's favorite attorney, especially theirs, Mark Tinsley. And that is not according to me. That is according to one Liz Farrell, who is says that specifically in her deposition. I had some hater that came after me like, oh, Liz is going to sue you. She was never deposed. I'm like, seriously? I mean, seriously? Get out. Okay, so what the records do not depict independent journalism, later adapted for film, Netflix. Instead, what they do show is real-time collaboration, access control, and editorial awareness. Now you're going to go, well, I hope you got proof. Well, let's ask Mandy and Liz themselves, because that raises questions about the neutrality of the resulting documentary conduct. Netflix, I hope you don't cancel my subscription. And the Cinemark, who is the production company who made the episode and sold it to Netflix. So here's what happens. So Buster Murdaugh right now is no longer a passive subject in the Murdaugh media machine. He is actively fighting back in court in Hampton, South Carolina, seeking to reclaim his name and his reputation after years of being publicly linked without evidence, mind you, or criminal charges. Hasn't been charged criminally. SLED has not charged him. Hampton County has not charged him. Hampton City Police has not charged him. In any way, shape, or form, in the 2015 death of Stephen Smith, which, by the way, I solved. And Eric Bland on October 15th said so, said congratulations, said good job for the hard work. Sandy Smith told me she's never received any information this detailed and this much information from any SLED agent in the last 10 years. That's a fact. So, Buster Murdaugh, Stephen Smith, stop talking about it. You're only using defamatory language when you do. And through this civil defamation lawsuit that Buster filed in Hampton County that we talked about earlier with Michael DeWitt, who's involved with Gannett, Buster is now challenging how streaming giants and production companies used implications, editing, and omission, editing's a big one, to suggest his involvement in a homicide. Investigators have never ever accused him of, I said, committing. And the case marks a decisive shift from being portrayed as this shadowy figure walking around in the dark with a baseball bat in true crime storytelling to becoming a plaintiff demanding accountability from the media entities that helped shape this narrative. On cue, as always, thank you very much for the applause. I do appreciate it. So Buster filed a lawsuit, and in the civil defamation lawsuit, he's going after Blackfin Incorporated, Warner Brothers, Discovery Inc., Warner Media Entertainment Pages, Campfire Studios, the Cinemark, Netflix, Gannett, and Michael DeWitt Jr. That's a lot. Some of these are in federal court, but Netflix, Cinemark, and DeWitt and Gannett are in Hampton. Pretty sure that's correct. And if you go to Crime and Cask, www.crimeandcask.com, you can go check out this article and you can see the PDF. You can see the summons and jury trial demand that Buster put forth. It's quite interesting. But Netflix, were they in direct communications with journalists, Farrell and Matney? Well, let's find out. So Callie Lyons, who has legally obtained, not obtained, was given emails and texts from her former employer, completely legal. She didn't steal anything. Anybody who's telling you that she stole these is a complete liar and defaming her because she didn't steal them. Period. End of paragraph. I don't care who it is. I don't care who's saying it. I don't care if it's an attorney that says it. They're wrong. But in one exchange, in these particular emails that we're talking about, in text, Farrell confirms direct communication with Netflix regarding internal developments. And here is a quote: "I knew BC because Netflix told me." Netflix told me. The message is not framed as speculation or rumor. It reflects direct knowledge conveyed by Netflix itself, contradicting the claim that journalists and producers operated at arm's length. They were working together. There's another text exchange. When the source of information is questioned, Farrell responds, this is what I think is funny: "Mike Gazpacho found it." Mike Gazpacho found it. Now, who is Mike Gazpacho? Mike Gazpacho, as they call him, his name is Michael Gasparo. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Gasparo. Maybe that's why they just call him Gazpacho. He's a film producer and he's a showrunner with experience in film, television development, and production in New York City. And he is a partner at the Cinemark LLC. And so they were working with Mike Gazpacho. When clarification is sought as to who they are, in the response is blunt, Cinemart, LOL. Yeah, them. And that casual tone underscores the familiarity and the access. It doesn't, the tone is not distance. It's, we're working with Cinemart, we're working with Netflix, and we're giving them access to our folders, which is the Murdaugh folders. We're going to talk about a narrative soon, and the Stephen Smith folder. So Mike Gazpacho, we talked about him. But for those looking here at home, we can read the whole text string. I do have a copy of the text here where she says something about an NP strategy. Oh, look, let me look. And FYI, the Netflix researcher didn't even have this on her radar. Weird, because Mike Gazpacho asked Mark about it, referring to Mark Tinsley. Then they asked question, did Paul Murdaugh, did he have a court date on his criminal charges before he was murdered? Yes, he did. And that probably led to his murder, but we'll get into that. And then they go on to say, I asked Mark a few days ago, and he was like, Gazpacho just asked me the same question. So now we've got Mark Tinsley and Liz Farrell and Mandy talking about Mike Gazpacho from Cinemark, goes through Netflix. They're all talking. And so they say, no, LOL, no. And I'm not sure Mike communicates much with Caitlin, who's another researcher, LOL. So we move on to Cinemark as an active editorial participant. And it's Cinemark. If I keep calling him Cinemark, I'm not. Well, that seems like I am. Rather been treated as a passive production company, the Cinemart appears repeatedly as an active participant in the information loop. According to the text, in group exchange, reacting to developments around online activity and narrative fallout, the response is quite dismissive. I'm just here to tell you. Cinemark, LOL. And this is not an isolated reference. It appears alongside discussion of what content is being tracked, who is aware of it, and how it should be handled. This is between Mandy and Liz, where it says, who is the troll, Mandy? Had to log into Sloth Blantley's account. Laughy face. Oh, it's a troll party, says Mandy. Yep, LOL. Mandy didn't do that, LOL. It was me, says Liz. They are a shit show. Liz says, I knew because Netflix told me. Mike Gazpacho found it. Mandy says, Cinemark, LOL. Liz says, yeah, them. So not only that, they're kind of laughing at him. But it looks like Matney and Farrell might have been the narrative gatekeepers. Remember we talked about the narrative? Buster. You know, Patrick Wilson and Sean Connery aren't as attractive names as Buster Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh. But let's get into that, because the text looks like they're coordinating closely, not only with each other, but in response to producer controls. I know, I'm with you. In one exchange, Farrell criticizes producers for following a particular storyline rather than the broader factual record. And remember what I said, Buster Murdaugh? 0 + 0 = what? 0. She writes, it shows they're not following the Murdaugh story. They're following the Parker's narrative that you and Mark are friends. I get it, man. I get it. And of course, Parker's we're talking about. Mark Tinsley suing Parker's in a 392 case with Renee Beach. Or actually, the 392 case and the boat crash case. I don't know how many cases they got, but there's a lot. And that statement made about not following the Murdaugh story does reflect explicit awareness and a narrative narratives were being chosen, not reported. And here's what I think is extremely funny. They try to attack me and say I'm not the journalist. Can you believe that? I can't either. They're going to have a field day with this. But here it is. Here's the text. Mandy and Liz come out right after we call Parker's out every fucking time, says Mandy, Liz. But he found it because someone from Cinemart saw it on Vimeo. Mandy, right. They're not even good at it. Liz, it shows they're not following the Murdaugh story. They're following the Parker's narrative that you and Mark are friends. Also, Truth Teller is the one who knows about the test juries. And my involvement, Liz says, I think it's Sarah. And I think she knows about that because one of the people who agreed to do the jury walked out in the middle because she was family with Parker's. The whole 392 case is about Parker's creating a narrative and deploying it out to the press, which is interesting because that's exactly what Farrell is describing here herself. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, you just can't make it up. And so Mark Tinsley, as a recurring source and intermediary, maybe even consigliere. I'm kidding, not consigliere. Although, yes, he is for Liz. Anyway, attorney Mark Tinsley appears repeatedly as a conduit of information, as a figure whose actions affected media dynamics. And they really did. And they controlled the narrative. And Farrell recounts confronting Tinsley over concerns about Netflix's role in online activity. After I break down with Mark about it, me thinking that Netflix was behind it, it got quiet from that particular group. And in another message, Farrell writes, Tinsley is making up for his leak, by the way. I'm not sure what leak they're talking about. I do know that there are text messages show that he leaked the Christine Avery video with Dick Harpootlian and Juror 785, where they completely BS'd about she was talking and got her removed. I don't know if they're talking about that, but there is text that say that Mark leaked that to a news media outlet. But what do these exchanges suggest? That Tinsley's not merely a passive source, but an active participant whose disclosures and reactions shaped coverage and production decisions based off of their own words. Can you believe that? Yes, I can. I need some more sounds. I can tell you that right now. So there's shared folders and access control. Perhaps the clearest indication of collaboration comes from discussions about shared folders of evidence and who should have access to them. And remember, all this time, Farrell admitted under oath she was receiving materials from Mark Tinsley. Yeah. In one exchange, Farrell raises concerns about an individual's presence in shared materials, saying we should talk to Will about removing them from the folder if that's the case. So Cinemart clearly had access to this media outlet's folder, which made the Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal, Part 1, Part 2. And further discussion, access is revoked. Okay, I'll pull him off everything. I took him off the top level folder that someone created. And this language appears operational, not journalistic. And it reflects content management. Who's going to have what? What are they going to do with it? I mean, can you feel the tension in the air? So we're looking at a narrative built, not merely observed. And when you look at these texts all together, what you see is Netflix communicating. And when I say Netflix, I'm talking about Cinemart, Netflix, communicating directly with journalists who received information from Mark Tinsley, according to her deposition, who was suing the Murdaughs and the Parkers for millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. And you have Cinemark actively tracking and responding to information. Cinemark produced the Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal, and Farrell and Matney filtering and shaping the narratives. Again, the narratives that Buster did it. Buster. Wasn't Buster. There's no evidence of Buster, but that's the narrative they wanted to go with. And Tinsley supplying the managing information flow somehow, allegedly, and editorial decisions about access, sources, and framing. And what's this mean? This means that the result was not a neutral documentary. Callie Lyons and I, Elaine Greenwood and I from Super Woke News, we talked about this in many of these podcasts, that Netflix documentary in both instances was not neutral. Period. And it was assembled from finished journalism, not from finished journalism, but a collaborative process in which narratives were shaped in real time. I know. Let me hear that one more time. So let's just wrap this up. I think we're going to have probably the shortest one we have here. We're going on 36 minutes, which is good, just to kind of get you through midweek here. But the conclusion is the CC News Network, Crime and Cask Investigations are raising profound questions about transparency, independence, and editorial integrity. I bet they can't spell that. In the production of high-profile true crime documentaries, we're talking about the Murdaughs. We're talking about Stephen Smith. By the way, I solved the Stephen Smith case. Go ahead and check it out, crimeandcast.com. Keyword Stephen Smith. It's done. It's over. Stop talking about Buster Murdaugh. But what does emerge is, for the record, is a clear and thorough through line that appears anything but accidental. And when I say anything but accidental, this thing was not accidental. This was a team effort, a collaboration of a lot of different people and a lot of different moving parts to make who look guilty? The Murdaughs look guilty. And by the way, let me just make this for the fact again, for the record, and a fact is that Alec Murdaugh did some bad things. He's a bad guy. Does he deserve to be in prison for 40 years? I don't know. There was another attorney in South Carolina in federal court who pled to stealing $30 million, twice as much as he did. Murdaugh received 40 years in prison. She received 5 years probation. You tell me. But he deserves something. I don't know if it's 40 years, but not my decision to make. But it looks like it flowed from Mark Tinsley, according to Liz Farrell, and went to Liz, then it went to Mandy, and then it moved to the production pipeline to Cinemark, which being distributed at large scale by Netflix to the American public. I'm not making this up, people. I am not making this up whatsoever. And at each step, the editorial decisions, the sourcing choices, and the narrative framing compounded the same implication, one never supported by charges or evidence, ever, until it hardened into perceived truth for millions of viewers, which is why today I still go through and I see the name Buster Murdaugh come through. And why? Because people have heard it and heard it and heard it. Honestly, who knows who started that rumor in the Mate Report and Stephen Smith? Might have been the people that actually hit Stephen Smith, according to my confidential source. But that remains to be seen. Whether this whole thing is intentional or reckless, the result is the same. We have a single unproven narrative, recycled, amplified across multiple platforms, delivered not as rumor, but as story. And that is precisely why the questions raised in this case now belong before a jury. Before a jury in the state of South Carolina in Hampton County, not buried beneath claims of distance, neutrality, or confidence. I mean, can I get an applause? That is called Swamp Justice Radio. We are on 97.7 WVFF, Veterans for Freedom Radio, the Truth and Broadcasting Corporation. And we're going to just talk about this for a second because, by the way, it's Messy Hair Monday because I don't care. I'm at what appears to be the truth. And when you get to the truth, to people who are telling the lies, they don't then take your evidence and argue your evidence. They go and they attack you. They attack you. They smear you. They discredit you, which is what they're doing right now, which is what got Eric Bland under investigation right now by the Office of Disciplinary Counsel in the state of South Carolina, run by the Supreme Court, which he could get up to disbarment and lose his license as an attorney to practice in the state of South Carolina because he attacked me because of my opinion. Mandy telling him, don't listen to that guy. Mandy telling Sandy Smith, don't listen to that guy. And why do I say that? Because those people did listen to me. They did thank me. Eric did thank me. Thank you for the hard work. Thank you. You've told me more than SLED has ever done. That was October 15th. 2 days later, after Mandy sitting out in Hulu in California with her Hulu series, she calls me a cruel liar. I have offered all these people, including Mandy and Liz and Eric and Sandy, you want to listen to my hour and a half recorded interview with the confidential source? It's going to blow your mind. They tell the truth. I've worked with SLED on this. SLED continues to ask me for information. I continue to supply SLED with information. If I was giving SLED wrong information, they would stop asking. They're not. And more information is flowing in. By the way, if you have any information that you would like to share with me, either publicly or confidentially, in a confidential form, feel free to contact me. I'm on any social media that you can actually imagine. Facebook Messenger, TikTok. I've got 115,000 followers, 116,000 followers as of the other day. Eric Bland, I think, has 3,000 followers, but I'm supposedly trying to make myself look better. Anyway, so that's the Buster Murdaugh update that you have back on Swamp Justice Radio. As I said, on 97.7 FM, WVFF, Veterans for Freedom Radio. We're here to find out the truth and to report the truth. If you're listening right now and you think I'm full of, I edit this one out. If you think I'm full of shit, you have been listening to the wrong people tell you the wrong story for a narrative, for clicks, to be on Netflix, not to tell the truth as it appears, allegedly for educational purposes only. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. Crime and Cast coming at you. Check me out, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all over. We got a couple 100,000 followers, combined millions of views, millions of likes and shares. We're here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment in below. If there's something you want me to cover on Murdaugh, let me know. I'll do that. I've got a ton of videos and stuff. I'm the only one that's been doing this for years and years and years. I have 3 books out. Now a 4th book coming out on Stephen Smith, the investigation, the death of Stephen Smith. And that will be coming out in May of 2026. Don't have a date on that yet, but we do have other books, which should be on a Netflix show. Netflix. If you really want the truth, contact me. We can do a book on defending Alec Murdaugh, not guilty by reasonable doubt. And we can roll that right into because enough is enough by juror 785, where she was wrongly removed, the egg lady, from the Murdaugh jury because she was going to vote not guilty. And you're never going to guess what attorney was behind that and what podcasters were behind that, allegedly. I'm not going to say their names, but you can take a guess. All right, we'll see you later. Grab a cash, get out.